My mom sent me out when I was 18 and said, "We can't afford to feed you." A decade later, I'm a Michelin-starred chef. They came and asked for a free table. I sent the bill to the server. And just so you know, we can reject service. Hey, Reddit. I've had a story stuck in my head for years. Ready to share at last. Get some munchies because this is going to be a long ride. I'm going to start from the beginning so you can see how bad this was. My name is Jake, I'm 28 years old, and I grew up in Ohio with a normal middle-class family. Dad was in charge of settling insurance claims. Mom worked part-time as a bookkeeper for businesses in the area. It wasn't anything special, but we weren't in pain either. That's what I thought. Natalie, my younger sister, was born when I was 2. She is 26 years old and a girl. From that point on, the way the family worked changed in ways I didn't comprehend until much later. It was all about her. What Natalie wanted or needed was at the center of every choice, purchase, and family plan. Dad stated we couldn't afford a new bike when I was 8 and requested for one because mine was too tiny. Natalie got a new princess-themed bedroom set 2 weeks later. It cost roughly $800, but a $60 bike was too much. The pattern kept going throughout childhood. Natalie got new clothes every season, but I wore items that had been passed down to me. I lived in a small room with boxes for storage, while she lived in the master bedroom. Birthdays were the worst days. Mine was a card with $20 in it. Hers meant gatherings with a theme and a lot of people. Mom would claim I was being selfish when I asked why. Your sister needs more care. You are strong. You can deal with things. They were busy with their darling daughter, so I was supposed to take care of myself. There was more inequality in high school. Natalie's competitive dancing cost $2,000 for outfits and travel. The $5 membership price for the culinary club was too high just now. But that cooking group altered my life. Mr. Peterson noticed something in me. He allowed me remain after school to practice, taught me how to use a knife, and brought in food from his own kitchen. "You have natural instincts," he said to me when I made a faultless Hollands sauce on my 3rd try. Most students take months. Food made sense in a way nothing else did. In the kitchen, I had control. I could make something from nothing. My parents never came to culinary showcases. When I won 2nd place in a regional cooking competition, Mom glanced at the trophy and asked if I'd cleaned my room. But when Natalie came in 4th in a local dance competition, there was a celebration dinner, relatives were invited, and there were social media posts for weeks. In her senior year, she started applying to colleges. The Culinary Institute had an amazing program 3 hours away, and tuition was about $30,000 a year. I'd been working at a local diner since I was 16 and had saved about $8,000. I asked my parents to help me pay for college or to co-sign the loan. Dad laughed and said, "We're not spending that much money so you can learn to flip burgers." He told me to get a real job. 2 months later, they bought Natalie a brand new Honda Civic for her 16th birthday, which cost $22,000. She hadn't even asked for it. I was still driving the old Toyota they bought for $500. But Natalie needed reliable transportation for dance. The unfairness became too much to bear. In my junior year alone, they spent over $15,000 on Natalie and only $300 on me. And that was only because my work shoes fell apart. When I showed Mom the numbers, she got angry. "How dare you keep track of our spending like we're criminals? We give you a roof and food. Your sister has special needs." Special needs? Natalie was perfectly healthy. She just wanted everything and got it. The final breaking point came 3 weeks after I turned 18. I'd been accepted to the Culinary Institute with a partial scholarship covering 40%. I still needed $7,000 for the first year. I'd applied for every grant and loan, worked extra shifts, sold everything I could. I asked my parents for a loan one last time. Not a gift, a loan. I had a payment schedule ready. Dad didn't look at it, just said no. "We don't have that kind of money," Mom added. The next day, Natalie announced she wanted a summer dance intensive in New York. 8 weeks of training, cost $12,000. "Of course, sweetheart," Dad said immediately. "We'll make it work." I couldn't believe it. That's when I lost it. I didn't yell or throw things. I just felt something inside me break. I knew for sure that they would never choose me, support me, or see me as worth investing in. I said quietly, "How do you have $12,000 for Natalie but not $7,000 for my education?" Mom sighed. "Natalie's program is an amazing chance. Your cooking school is just cooking. It's one of the best culinary schools in the country. It's a waste of money." Dad cut in. "You'll end up in a kitchen for minimum wage. At least Natalie's training might lead somewhere." They thought my passion was worthless compared to whatever Natalie wanted. The next morning, my things were in trash bags by the front door. Mom stood with her arms crossed. "It's time for you to move out," she said. "You're 18, an adult. We need the space, and we can't afford to keep feeding you while saving for Natalie's program." "Can't afford to feed me?" I asked. They had $12,000 for dance camp but couldn't afford to feed their son. "You're kicking me out." Dad said, "We're helping you become independent. You're an adult now, so it's time to stand on your own 2 feet. Natalie watched from the stairs without saying anything. She didn't defend me. I loaded my trash bags into my car and drove away. I didn't cry or beg. I just left. That was the last time I went to that house. The first few months were awful. I couldn't afford an apartment on diner earnings, so Mr. Peterson let me sleep on his couch for a month. His wife made sure I ate real meals. They took better care of me in 4 weeks than my parents had in years. Mr. Peterson said, "You've got talent. Don't let them take that." I put off going to culinary school for a year and obtained a second job washing dishes at Meridian, a nicer restaurant. I worked 90 hours a week between both jobs. Chef Anton, the head chef, was a scary French guy who ran his kitchen like a military operation. After a month, he pulled me aside and said, "You're wasting talent washing dishes." He told me to start prepping the next day. I became a prep cook, breaking down chickens, dicing vegetables, and making stocks. Grunt work, but I was learning. Chef Anton was tough but fair. "You have good instincts, but instincts mean nothing without discipline." After 6 months, I rented a room in a house with 3 other guys. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Meanwhile, Natalie's summer intensive happened. My parents posted constant updates about how great it was for her. Not a single mention of their son working 2 jobs to survive. I unfollowed all of them. Needed to focus on my own future. By the time I enrolled at the Culinary Institute, I'd saved enough to cover most of first year. Took minimal loans for the rest. The institute was intense, but incredible. Classical French techniques, molecular gastronomy, wine pairing, restaurant management. My teachers saw how hard I worked. While others complained, I thrived. I had already been working in kitchens for over a year. In my second year, I got an internship at a Michelin-starred restaurant. Chef Linda Park was known for her creative American food. She pushed me harder than anyone else, but she believed in me. When I suggested a change to her dish, she had me make it and put it on the menu. "You have something special. You can't teach someone how to taste food." I graduated at the top of my class, but my parents weren't there. Mr. and Mrs. Peterson came instead. Chef Park offered me a line cook job, which most graduates would have killed for. The next 4 years were a masterclass in fine dining. I worked at every station and learned how she ran her business and made her dishes. When she opened a second location, she chose me to run the kitchen. At 24, I became head chef of a restaurant that earned its own Michelin star within a year. It was surreal to see my name in reviews and profiles in industry magazines. At 26, I left to open my own place. It was hard to find investors, but having a Michelin star and Chef Park's endorsement helped. I pitched my idea, elevated comfort food made with seasonal, locally sourced ingredients. Ember opened in a renovated warehouse downtown. It had exposed brick, an open kitchen, seating for 60, and a small menu that changed every week based on what was in season. The first 6 months were terrible. Long hours, constant stress, and money problems. But word got out. Bloggers came. Critics noticed. Reservations filled up weeks in advance. In the second year, we got our first Michelin star. I was 27 years old, the head chef and owner of a Michelin-starred restaurant. The kid who got kicked out at 18 had built something amazing. My staff became like family. Christina, the sous chef, had been with me since the beginning. She understood my vision and kept things running smoothly. You built something real here, not just the food but the culture. Life was good. I had a successful restaurant, a great team, respect in the industry, and financial security. Everything I had built was mine. Then my family came. It started with a request for a reservation. At first, the name didn't ring a bell, but when I looked at Saturday's list again, something made me look closer. A party of 4 under the name Mitchell family. Same last name, same hometown area code. Guest notes. Looking forward to the great food. Natalie, they had found me. Christina saw my face after 10 years of silence. Is everything okay? I asked. I kept the reservation open but wrote, do not comp anything. Standard service only. I was more apprehensive than I'd been in years on Saturday. This was my restaurant, my kitchen, and my regulations. They got there on time, and I watched from the kitchen pass as the host seated them. Mom looked older. Dad had put on weight. Natalie was dressed too nicely. There was a guy with her. They looked impressed but tried not to show it. Mom was reading the menu with her eyebrows raised. Probably because of the prices. The tasting menu was $150 per person, and the à la carte dishes were $35 to $75. Not too bad for a Michelin-starred restaurant, but definitely not cheap. Christina came over to me. That's them. Yes, that's them. The server James came back and said that table 12 wanted to know if the chef does table visits. They wanted to talk to you. Of course they did. Tell them I'm busy with service, but I'll try to stop by if I can. They ordered the tasting menu for all 4 of them, which cost $600 before drinks and tax. I treated them like any other guests. They got the same food, service, and experience. My team did a great job with each course, showing off their skills and using seasonal ingredients. James checked in with them after each course. They seemed to like the food, but Mom kept asking how it was made and Dad said the portions were too big. Natalie was taking pictures of everything for social media. Of course, James came back after the main course looking uncomfortable. They're asking again if you can come to the table. Your sister said to tell you it's important family business. Family business. Christina touched my arm during Saturday service. You don't have to go. I'll go, but only for a minute. I took off my chef's coat, washed my hands, and headed to table 12. As I got closer, I could see them all sit up straighter and smile. Jake. Mom jumped up like she was going to hug me. I took a small step back, and she stopped, looking hurt. Good evening. I hear you wanted to talk to the chef. The formal tone clearly threw them off. Dad was the first to recover and offered his hand for a shake. I didn't take it. I just kept my hands behind my back, keeping a professional distance. Son, it's so good to see you. The food has been amazing. We had no idea you'd done so much. Thank you. We work hard to keep our standards high. Natalie jumped in. All fake excitement. This place is amazing. I've been posting about it and my followers are so impressed. We had to come try it once we found out it was your restaurant. How did you find out? I asked, genuinely curious about what had made them come after 10 years of silence. There was an article in a local magazine about local chefs, and there was your picture. We recognized you right away. So, they came because they had seen my success in a magazine, not because they had been following my career or were genuinely proud. They came because I was famous enough to be acknowledged. The magazine article was very nice. Mom quickly added, I told everyone we always knew you had potential. I used to tell people about how good you were at cooking all the time. The nerve. They literally called my career choice a waste of money and kicked me out of their house. But now they always knew I had potential and bragged about me to their friends. We wanted to talk. Dad responded, maybe after your shift. We have some things we want to talk about. Family issues. I'm sorry, but I have a busy evening with a lot of work to do and getting ready for tomorrow's service. Surely you can spare an hour for your family, Mom continued, her voice getting sharper. The same tone she used when I was a kid and didn't want to do what they wanted. I told her that I treat all my guests the same and that I had other tables to take care of right now. She said, "Wait, can we at least get a picture for my social media?" I turned back. "I'm sorry, but I can't do that during service. You can take pictures of the restaurant itself if you want, but I don't pose for pictures with guests. That's company policy." It wasn't really company policy. I'd posed for pictures with guests before when they were celebrating special occasions or visiting foodies I respected, but not for them. Christina looked at me with a questioning look when I got back to the kitchen. "They want to talk about family matters," I said, putting my coat back on. "I told them I was busy." "Good. They don't deserve your time." The dessert course went out. It was chocolate soul with raspberry and vanilla bean ice cream, one of our signature dishes. James said they liked it, took more pictures, and asked me several times if I was coming back to the table. When their check came, Dad looked at it for a long time before handing over his credit card. The total was $648, plus a 20% tip for parties of 3 or more, which brought the total to almost $800. That's when things got interesting. James came back to the kitchen looking worried. "Table 12 wants to speak with a manager," he said. "They're arguing about the bill." "What's the problem?" "They thought the meal would be free because since you're family, they thought they wouldn't have to pay." The entitlement was crazy. They showed up without warning, made demands on my time during the busiest service of the week, and thought hundreds of dollars worth of food and wine would be free just because we share DNA. Tell them the check is right and that we don't give free meals to anyone. That's our policy. James hesitated and shifted uncomfortably. The dad is being kind of aggressive about it, saying it's disrespectful to charge family members. Other tables are starting to notice. I wiped my hands on a kitchen towel, took off my coat again, and went back to their table. Several other diners were looking over, clearly aware that something was going on. The mood in the dining room had changed. When I got to the table, Dad started right away, speaking loudly enough for the nearby tables to hear. "Jake, there seems to be a mistake with the bill. We thought the meal would be free since we're friends." Natalie said, "There's no mistake. The bill is correct." She said this as if it explained everything and made all normal business rules go away. I calmly replied, "You're guests at my restaurant. All guests pay for their meals. That's how restaurants work." Mom's face turned red and her voice got louder. "After everything we did for you, you can't even take us out to dinner? After we raised you and gave you everything?" The words hung in the air. Several tables nearby definitely heard that MY staff was watching from the kitchen pass, and I could see Christina standing by in case things got worse. I thought about all the things I could say. The trash bags by the door, the $12,000 for Natalie's dance camp and nothing for me. The fact that they couldn't afford to feed me while they planned expensive trips. Being kicked out at 18 and told my dreams were worthless, and all the years of taking credit for my work. Instead, I just kept it simple and professional. The total for the meal is $777.40. I need a credit card to pay. "This is ridiculous," Dad said, his voice rising. "We came here to reconnect, to support your business, and you're treating us like strangers. You are strangers. You've been strangers for almost 10 years, and this is a business, not a charity for people who happen to share my last name." I signaled to James, who brought over the payment terminal. The other diners weren't even pretending not to watch anymore. Dad threw down his credit card with force. "Fine, but don't expect us to come back." "I don't," I said simply, while James processed the payment. The silence at their table was thick. Mom looked like she wanted to say something, but she couldn't find the words. Natalie was looking at her phone, probably freaking out about what to post about this dinner now. The boyfriend looked very uncomfortable, like he would rather be anywhere else. The payment went through, and James brought back the receipt for Dad to sign. Dad wrote his name with obvious anger. He didn't leave a tip other than the automatic gratuity and stood up. "Let's go," he told the others. They got their things and stood up to leave. Mom looked at me with tears in her eyes. The performance was impressive. I'll give her that. We were so proud when we saw that article. We wanted to see what you'd built. We wanted to be part of your success. You wanted to be part of mine now that it exists. Where were you when I was washing dishes to stay alive? When I was living on someone's couch? When I graduated at the top of my class, I kept my voice level and professional. You made your choice 10 years ago, and I'm just respecting it. Natalie finally found her voice. You're being very unfair. We came here to make things right, but you're holding grudges. I'm running a business, so if you want to make things right, we can talk about it outside of my restaurant, after you've had time to think about what you would actually be apologizing for. But showing up unannounced and expecting free food isn't making things right. They left without saying anything else. I watched them leave, and dozens of other diners who had seen at least part of the fight saw them go. The restaurant was quiet for about 5 seconds after they left, and then someone started clapping. Then another table joined in. Within seconds, everyone in the dining room was clapping. I nodded politely and went back to the kitchen, where my team had seen everything. Christina said it was amazing. It was completely professional, but also completely savage. The rest of the service went well, but I could tell that word was getting out. Some guests who had seen the fight went out of their way to compliment the food when they left, leaving big tips and promising to come back. After we closed and cleaned up, I finally sat in my office and let the feelings hit me. Anger, sadness, relief, pride, everything at once. I had stood my ground. I had protected my space. I had refused to let them back in just because it was easier for them. Christina knocked on the door frame. Are you okay? Yeah, better than okay, I said. They'll probably try to get in touch with you again. She was right. My phone, which I had silenced during the service, showed 17 missed calls, 32 text messages, and a lot of voicemails within an hour. I didn't check any of them that night. By Monday morning, things had gotten worse in ways I hadn't expected. Natalie had posted about the restaurant visit on her social media, but her version of events was creative fiction. She said that she and our parents had gone to support my business but ended up being publicly humiliated and overcharged for bad food. She said I had embarrassed them in front of dozens of people and that the meal wasn't worth the price. She had thousands of followers, and the post was getting a lot of attention. People were commenting in support, saying I sounded like a terrible person, that family should support each other, and that my prices showed that I was greedy. She had carefully changed the story to make them look like victims and me look like a mean jerk with an ego problem. What she didn't know was that 3 of the people who ate with us on Saturday night were food bloggers with a lot of followers. By Sunday night, they had all posted about seeing the fight in a very different way than Natalie did. Janet, a blogger, stated, I saw something amazing at Ember last night. A family came to this Michelin-starred restaurant expecting a complimentary supper. The chef owner dealt with the rude behavior with grace and expertise. The food was great. The mood was just right, and seeing him stand his ground made the night unforgettable. Full review coming soon. Another blogger wrote, PSA, just because you're related to a successful chef doesn't mean you can get free food. I saw a family throw a tantrum at Ember when they had to pay their bill like everyone else. The chef did a great job with it. By the way, the duck was wonderful. Every cent is worth it. The third blogger went into further detail. People are talking about a chef who was nasty to his family at work. I was there. This is what really happened. The family showed up without warning during a busy service, wanted special treatment, thought their supper would be free, and threw a fit when they had to pay like everyone else. The chef was quite professional. His cuisine was great. Don't fall for the spin. People shared and reshared the 3 posts. Other people who ate there that night added their thoughts. Natalie's story was breaking apart within 24 hours because various eyewitness testimonies contradicted her version. People who work in the food business also started to speak up. Other cooks talked about how hard it is to cope with family members who think they deserve things. Owners of restaurants told similar accounts. Most people agreed that I had dealt with the issue well. By Tuesday, a local news station had taken up the story and asked me for my thoughts on it. I didn't want to be interviewed, But my PR, who I required because I had a Michelin star, made a short statement. Chef Jake treats all guests the same, no matter what their personal relationship is with him. Ember does not give free meals to anyone since that would be unfair to our paying customers who help our business. We are grateful for the support we've gotten from the dining community and look forward to serving our guests again. The great food they anticipate from them. Professional, diplomatic, and thoroughly batted down the idea that I had done something wrong. My family kept calling and texting me. Dad left me messages on my phone telling me to solve this and stop making the family seem bad. Mom sent long texts describing how much she ached. Natalie sent me a note claiming I had ruined her reputation and needed to say sorry. I didn't answer any of it. My lawyer issued them a letter telling them to stop posting false information about me on social media. Natalie deleted her first post, but she kept some vague words about toxic family members and what she learnt about how success can change people. I thought it was funny that she said success changed people. Business was going great at Ember, though. The argument truly helped. There were no more reservations available for 2 months. People wanted to eat at the restaurant where the chef had told off rude family members. We had to add additional time for people to sit down since there were so many. About 2 weeks after the event, an older couple stopped in for supper one night. They asked to talk to me after they ate. I walked to their table expecting them to say something nice or ask me for a recipe. The man held out his hand. "I'm Thomas Mitchell, your uncle." I shook your uncle's hand carefully, even though I had never met him before. It couldn't be good that another family member showed up. "I wanted to come see what you'd built," he continued, "and to say sorry for the family." His wife nodded and said, "Not everyone agrees with how your parents treated you. We heard about what happened when you were 18 years old. At the time, Thomas was working abroad, so we were living there. When we got back and discovered out they had kicked you out without any help, we were shocked. Thomas said that they tried to find you, but you had changed your number and your social media accounts were gone. We wanted to help, but we didn't know how. I didn't know what to say. I thought that all of my parents' extended family either supported them or didn't care." His wife went on to say that the food was great. "You have made something amazing here. We simply wanted to let you know that not everyone in the family agrees with what they did." We talked for a little while longer. They offered me their phone number and indicated that if I ever wanted to get in touch, they would be happy to hear from me. No pressure, no expectations, simply an open door. Christina wondered what it was all about once they departed. I remarked that it seems like some of my family members aren't that bad. Who would have guessed? Mr. Peterson sent the following unexpected message by email. He had retired from teaching, but he had heard about the drama and the restaurant. His email was short. "I always knew you would do something amazing, Jake. I'm sorry your folks couldn't see what everyone else could see. You were the best student I ever had, and not only because you were smart. You had a heart. You still do. The food you gave them was worth every dime they spent. You make me proud, Peterson." We talked for more than an hour on the phone that night. He told me about his retirement, his grandkids, and his garden. I told him about the restaurant, Chef Anton and Chef Park, and how to make something out of nothing. He said, "You did this yourself. That's what gives it meaning. You didn't get anything for free. You deserve every bit of it." He was correct. And that's what my parents could never get. They thought I should be thankful that they had fed and housed me for 18 years, which is the least the law requires. They thought that kicking me out would teach me to be grateful for them. It showed me that I didn't need them, though. 6 months after the restaurant incident, things were back to usual. Ember was doing great. We had added more wines to our menu, a chef's table experience, and 2 more line cooks to handle the extra work. I had begun the process of opening a second store. Not a big deal, simply a more laid-back place that serves comfort food at reasonable costs. It was tiring but fascinating to plan. My life outside of work was fantastic too. I had been seeing Rachel, a food photographer I met at a food industry event. She knew the restaurant business and didn't mind my busy schedule. We had been dating for 3 months, and it seemed effortless in a way that partnerships never had before. Rachel had asked me about my family once at the beginning. I told her the short story. She listened without judging and added, "It makes sense that you've made your own family with your team and mentors." She was accurate. Ember's employees were now my family. We cared about each other's lives outside of work, celebrated each other's triumphs, and helped each other through tough times. Then I got a letter, not an email or text, but a real letter that my parents' lawyer sent to the restaurant. The letter said that I had to pay them back for raising me and teaching me. They said they deserved a share of my success because I used skills I learned in high school culinary club to develop my career. In exchange for their investment in my future, they demanded $25,000 back. I read the letter 3 times to make sure I wasn't seeing things. They were trying to get money from me by saying that they deserved credit for Mr. Peterson's cooking club. When I showed it to my lawyer, she chuckled. "This doesn't have any legal power. Parents must legally provide food, shelter, and schooling until their children turn 18. They can't charge you for it later, especially since they kicked you out. And saying you own your career because you took a class in high school. That's crazy." She wrote back in a professional but strong way. "The claim was not valid. If you keep bothering me, I will take legal action." They had to stop all communication right now. 2 days later, Dad contacted the restaurant while they were serving lunch. The host connected him to my office without recognizing who he was. "We need to talk about this in a logical way, Jake." He started. "The time when you're trying to get money from me. It's not blackmail. It's a fair payment. We took care of you. We gave you food. We made sure you had a roof over your head. That's worth something. You did the bare minimum that was necessary by law, and then you kicked me out when I became 18 because you couldn't afford to feed me. Keep in mind that those were your exact words. You couldn't feed me because you needed the money for Natalie's dancing camp. We were helping you how to take care of yourself. You were picking one child above another, just like you did when I was a kid. Now that I've done well without you, you want money." He adjusted his plans. "Your mom misses you. This fight is killing her. Every day, she cries since she doesn't have a relationship with her kid. She had 18 years to get to know her kid. Instead, she chose to pay attention to her kid. Now that her son is doing well, she's suddenly heartbroken. That's not missing me. That doesn't let me see my success." Dad said, "You've changed. You've become frigid because of your success." No. Being booted out at 18 made me strong. I got tough by working 90 hours a week. I felt good about myself after starting a business from scratch. You're just disappointed that the son you thought was worthless turned out to be worth a lot. I hung up. After that, I banned their phone numbers, email addresses, and any other way they might get in touch with me personally. The letters from the lawyer kept coming for a few more weeks, and each one seemed more urgent than the last. My lawyer took care of everything. They finally stopped. Their lawyer either advised them the case was hopeless or they ran out of money to pay for legal bills. Business kept growing through all of this. Food critics from well-known magazines and newspapers flocked to Ember to write reviews. We kept our Michelin star and started to hear talk about acquiring a second one. I got an invitation to be on a cooking show, one of those reality competition shows. I usually stayed away from that kind of publicity, but it would be ideal for the second place we were planned. 3 months later, the show came on. I lost. Came in 3rd out of 12 chefs. However, the experience was great and the exposure was amazing. A lot of people liked the part where I talked about how I opened my business after being kicked out at 18. After the episode aired, I had hundreds of letters from individuals telling me their own stories. Others talked about families that weren't there for them. Others talked about how they overcame problems to achieve success. And some talked about how they chose to make their own families instead of staying in toxic situations. One message stood out. It was from a 17-year-old boy in Florida whose parents told him that his desire of becoming a chef was stupid. He wanted to know if he should stop or keep on. I made a call to him. We talked for a whole hour. I told him about Mr. Peterson and Chef Anton, and how he found people who believed in him even when his family didn't. I informed him that just because his parents couldn't recognize his potential didn't mean he didn't have any. "Are you any good?" I asked him. "I believe so. My homie teacher says I'm really good at it." Then go to that teacher and ask for help. Get someone to mentor you. Get help. If you're willing to work hard and stay humble, the appropriate individuals will come. 3 months later, he sent me a video of himself cooking in a kitchen that looked like it belonged to a professional chef. He had found a job at a restaurant in the area after school. The chef there saw his talent and started teaching him. Thanks for believing in me when my own parents wouldn't. His message said, "You made my life better." That message meant more to me than any Michelin star or good review. I used to be that kid. I knew how it felt to have your dreams thrown away. And now I could aid other people who were in the same boat. I set up a little scholarship fund for culinary students who come from tough family backgrounds. Not a lot, but enough to help students who wanted to learn how to cook but didn't have any other help with their tuition, books, and supplies. We paid for it using some of Ember's revenues and donations from individuals who had heard my story. The first person to get it was a child from Florida. He got into culinary school, and our scholarship paid for half of his first year of tuition. He emailed me a picture of himself on his first day in his chef's whites, and he had the biggest smile I'd ever seen. That's what success was supposed to mean. Not getting back at them or proving them wrong, but utilizing your power to help individuals who were in the same situation as you. My folks kicked me out with garbage bags full of my things about 10 years ago. It's been 8 years since I opened Ember. The restaurant has 2 Michelin stars today. The second store debuted last year and is doing quite well. So far, 15 students have gotten support from the scholarship fund. Sometimes, my parents try to get in touch with me through distant cousins or old family friends. The message is always something like, "I want to reconnect," or "I'm so proud of what I've built." I don't answer. Last year, Natalie got married. Someone sent me a wedding announcement they got, so I know. I wasn't asked to come. Clearly, her dance career never got off the ground. If you don't have the work ethic to match your ambition, thousands of hours of training won't ensure success. I heard that she's still living in my hometown and works in marketing. Rachel and I have a strong relationship. She gets the restaurant life, knows why I am the way I am, and has become close with my chosen family, the crew at Ember, Mr. and Mrs. Peterson, Chef Anton, who comes to visit from France sometimes, and Chef Park, who I still think of as a mentor. Rachel's family pretty much took me in. Her parents are kind and inviting, and they care about my work and are happy of what I've done. My future son-in-law is a chef with real passion, her dad tells others. Her mom asks me for cooking ideas and really listens to what I say. Thanksgiving was last month. Rachel's family asked me to come to their party. Her grandma made everyone at the meal declare what they were thankful for. When it was my turn, I said I was thankful for everyone who had faith in me when it mattered,